Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies.
Relax, be cool, cause if you don't, you'll act like a fool, so be cool.
Oh boy, it feels good to be doing dedicated reviews again, and I wanted my first one in a month to be a good choice, so I picked this one. Denis Villeneuve, no, there's my Hispanic crawling in. I do not know how to pronounce that. I am sorry. For the uninitiated, the man's technically been around since the 90s. But I'm pretty sure he wouldn't gain real traction until 2013's Prisoners. Highly recommended that you check that out. He definitely gained his mainstream success with 2015's Sicario and became celebrated for his sci-fi masterpiece, Arrival. Personally, I'm into the guy's work and consider Blade Runner 2049 to be his current magnum opus.
What are you doing here? I heard the piano.
The man picks his strengths and sticks with it, creating thought-provoking, introspective work with some of the best visuals that any movie could achieve with modern technology. In almost every way, he's right up there with Christopher Nolan, who both create challenging and unique films that appeal to me, with the rarest of blunders. And even the blunders aren't the worst. Strange then that Denis's opinions of superhero films are so harsh and kind of missing the point of why they exist at all. But I will always look forward to what he's putting out there, and this remake of an adaptation is no exception. I have made a review on the original Dune made by David Lynch, link in the description, but summed up, I think it's just okay. Ambitious for its time. And from what I understand about the book, it is a respectable adaptation, for at least what it was trying to do. But for me, it kinda sucked in terms of how much exposition is just vomited at the audience. And in some ways went just a little too silly for how serious I know this movie is trying to be. Not to mention the excessive narrations. Those drove me up the goddamn walls, man. It's not, strictly speaking, a good movie, but for its ambition, for the clear hard work that was put into making it, I do think it deserves respect, and I do recommend people checking it out. But how does this one hold up? Is it any better? Worse? Do sex workers deserve respect, you micro-penis assholes and social media platforms that keep screwing them over? Of course they do! That has nothing to do with anything, but I felt like throwing that into cyberspace. And with zero shits given to a fluid transition, this is my honest opinion of Dune. Part 1. Part 2 was just greenlit. Yeah, you can fade out now. Set in the year 10,000 something or other, the planet Arrakis, also called Dune, is the only planet that has spice, which is the source of prolonged life, fast space travel, and riches beyond anyone's wildest imagination. One of the major factions, the brutal Harkonnens, and their leader, Baron Harkonnen, played by Stellan Skarsgård, ruled Dune for a long time but have recently been forced to leave by an emperor or something like that. Sorry, I just love that mumble. Dune now has a new ruling faction, the House of Atreides, ruled by Duke Leto Atreides, played by Oscar Isaac. The real story is with Duke Leto's son, Paul, played by Timothée Chalamet and his pretentious-ass name. He's got psychic powers where he can kind of control people's actions. But more importantly, he seems to be the subject of a prophecy, and that he will truly shape the events to come. That is a prophecy that he and many seem to know. Paul tries his best to both steer his fate off course by protecting those that he cares about, and resisting the life that almost seems destined for him. His choices become more important when his people are attacked by the Harkonnens.
The Emperor asks us to bring peace to Arrakis. House Atreides accepts!
I like it. I really like it. Far more accessible than the original. Now, I do have a couple of complaints here and there, but honestly, those could be easily resolved in part 2. So I'm going to reserve legit point docking until part 2 comes out, because let's face it, this is the kind of movie that would be 5 hours long if audiences were okay with that. And let's face it, they're not. Most audiences probably don't even want to sit through the 2.5 hours that this current movie is. So until then, I'm going to be fair. But otherwise, yeah, this is damn good. Because I've seen the original, comparing and contrasting is pretty hard to avoid, so let's start with the story and world building. This movie is quite clearly a political sci-fi, so don't expect fast-paced action like Star Wars. This is a movie rooted in in-universe politics and power shifts, so if that's not your baggage, then you probably won't like this movie. Heads up. But as far as political intrigue is concerned, this was much easier to follow than the original. David Lynch's interpretation felt like it was trying too hard to build the world, rather than develop the characters within the world. As a result, I felt a constant disconnection with the story because not enough time was dedicated to the characters, their motivations, and the stakes. Why should I care if either the Harkonnens or House of Atreides wins the power struggle? I was never given a reason to care, or what reasons were offered, I wasn't interested enough to be invested. This movie, on the other hand, gave me a more intimate look into the lives and emotions of these characters, what they want and what their plans are. I know that Leto wants to rule Dune with an open palm rather than a closed fist like the Harkonnens.
I cannot promise not to travel into the desert if duty compels me. But your sieges will be yours forever.
Leto wants that responsibility, but as soon as he arrives at Dune, he's given equipment that isn't working well, almost like he's set up to fail.
You saw it. With your own eyes. It's plain to see. Everything they've left us is in shambles. We've been set up to fail.
There's also these psychic witches that seem to be plotting behind the scenes. Apparently, there's a TV show in the works that's all about them. Bro, Denis, finish part 2 first, man. Make sure audiences actually want to dive deeper into the Dune universe. This ain't Star Wars, man. Don't sell out. I rely on you for creatively pure stuff. In any case, the point I want to make is that the motivations of each individual faction is made much more clear. And there's a caveat to that, but I'll make a note of it later.
But our plans are measured in centuries. We have other prospects. If he fails his promise.
Now, let's tackle the characters, and we'll start with the controversy. Specifically, the casting of Sharon Duncan Brewster as Dr. Leah Kynes. In the book, the character was a man. In all the film adaptations, the character has been portrayed by a white male. Now, the character is portrayed by a black female. If you just want to get to the review, jump to this timecode. I promise I'll get back on track with the actual performances within the story, but race swaps are a thing going on in Hollywood and they need to be spotlit and discussed. While I can't find the specific interview where Duncan Brewster says, "Why can't Dr. Kynes be a woman? Why shouldn't Dr. Kynes be a woman?"
Sharon Duncan Brewster was quoted in this interview saying that Denis told her there was a lack of female characters in the cast, and that he wanted to write the role of Dr. Kynes for a woman. Brewster went on to comment, quote, "Why can't Kynes be a woman? Why shouldn't Kynes be a woman?"
I have to say, this is about the most teenage excuse I've ever heard out of an adult's mouth. By that logic, why couldn't or shouldn't all the characters in Dune be women? Why couldn't or shouldn't all characters in every piece of art be women? Where does that line end? Look, I've never read the novel, so I have nothing to compare to. I saw the original film and know the role was played by the legendary Max von Sydow. Beyond that, I don't know the character or his importance to the story. But that's a result of poor writing and a failure in me connecting with the story, more specifically to the character of Dr. Kynes. On the one hand, I believe in artistic integrity. There should be a strive to streamline the story and find out how to polish the characters to be more accessible to the audience. And I also believe that race and gender swapping is just a lazy excuse to change the source material. As if saying, look guys, this character is a woman now as opposed to a man, so much has changed. Changes to the story or characters need to make sense. While I've only watched the first season, let's look at The Boys. In the comic, the character Stormfront was a man. In the show, the character was changed to a woman. The differences between the two characters are plenty, I'm sure. Stormfront is clearly just as powerful as Homelander, just as commanding and domineering, and could actually take him in a straight fight. But what makes the TV version different for the better, or an acceptable change, is because it was made clear that Homelander has issues with women. A weird dommy-mommy dynamic with Elizabeth Shue's character, and now a weird sexual relationship with Stormfront. This is an artistic deviation that is explained and makes sense, as Stormfront is designed to be Homelander's worst nightmare. But look at Dune. All we get is, there's not enough female characters, or why not, huh? Pretty sure I've seen equally intelligent arguments on my elementary school playground. But I have to concede to a few counterpoints, or perhaps legit fans of the book could better argue in favor of keeping Kynes as a male. Does the gender of this character truly matter? Is this character so important that the story of Dune would crumble and shatter if Dr. Kynes is played by a woman as opposed to a man? I truly don't know. Is a character's importance placed on their gender rather than who they are and what role they serve in the story? Look, if the movie suddenly inserted gender or race politics into the story, something that Dune has nothing to do with, or if the character was somehow written to be perfect, overly important, and the men around her made to look incompetent in the name of making her look better, then the outrage over the change would be understandable, 100%. But as far as what was actually given to us, that's not what happened. She gives the Atreides guys their desert suits, respects who they are, they respect who she is.
With your permission, sire, I must check the integrity of your suit.
Mostly. But from where I was sitting, the character of Dr. Kynes didn't change. But if it's simply a matter of artistic integrity, fair enough. I'm not going to argue that. The original source material should be respected, and that's definitely not what was done here. So, ultimately, my opinion is the change shouldn't have happened, and I don't support it. But I do legit want to have an intellectual conversation with someone about the topic as a whole anyway, because there are some gray areas that kind of confuse me.
Get over there!
Right, so, everyone else. Yeah, everyone center stage kind of ranges from being serviceable, they're on screen, they do their job, serve their functions, to bringing their A game, the ones that I really like, and one career best. Let's run through the cast list. Dear God, this is going to take a minute. Serviceable performers include Rebecca Ferguson as Jessica, Paul's mother. Not a bad performance, make no mistake, but it's clear that she plays second fiddle to pretty much everyone. She has her awesome moments, but I prefer her in the Mission Impossible movies, and even her stint as the villain in Dr. Sleep, or the femme fatale in Reminiscence. I'll never say anything against her until she earns it. I think she's an incredibly talented actress. I just think this role was beneath her.
Will you protect our son?
With my life.
I'm not asking his mother, I'm asking the Bene Gesserit.
Okay, rapid fire. Josh Brolin. Same as Ferguson, great actor, but not in it for very long. I imagine, since his fate is ambiguous, he'll return to the sequel and give more to the story. Zendaya. Overrated actress to me, but is barely in it, so there's a positive. Stephen McKinley Henderson. He's really good, but why can't I remember any of the roles he's been in? Javier Bardem. Probably his best role in years, but he still doesn't leave a huge impact. Duncan Brewster. She exists. Dave Bautista. Damn it, he better have more to do in the sequel because he is way too good to be on the bench. David Dastmalchian. Dude, you need a starring role. You're way too good to keep playing sideline weirdos. Loved Polka Dot Man, though.
Guess I'm not in the mood today.
Mood? What's mood to do with it?
You fight when the necessity arises, no matter the mood. Now fight!
Moving on to the A-gamers. Oscar Isaac. Dude, has he been bad in anything? He's so personable. I think it's hard to beat Ex Machina as his best role, but this does come pretty damn close. Jason Momoa. He's too fun to not love. Stellan Skarsgård. Not forgiven for Mamma Mia, but still damn good in this. Charlotte Rampling. Her face is constantly covered, but her commanding voice is enough to wake the dead.
Hey, you. Put on some muscle?
I did?
No.
But now, it's time for the big shout out. The one surprise in this entire movie for me. Timothée Chalamet. This is far and away my favorite performance that he has ever given in his entire career. I've made it no real secret that I felt like Chalamet has been a fairly overrated actor. He's been in some critically lauded films like Call Me By Your Name, Beautiful Boy, and Little Women. Thing is, I think these movies are just okay. That's not to say that he's been bad in them, but these roles just didn't win me over. With him anyway. He clearly has talent and he can clearly bring a ton of energy. But I got the feeling that he was either not pushed hard enough or went way over the top. At long last, I've seen him bring the right amount of energy and nuance that I really gravitated toward. Paul is a great protagonist. He has that young man morning laziness that I find so relatable.
If you want it, make me give it to you. Use the voice.
Mom, I just woke up.
But more importantly, I like his character. Having been thrust into a situation where his path in life is preordained and seems to be towing the line of trying to resist it or change it.
I saw you lying dead, fallen in battle.
What I see is a compassionate young man who wants to do right by his family that he loves and wants his own role in the events being played out. Fiercely loyal, protective of those closest to him, but won't shy away from extending a hand in friendship to strangers.
That's all I have to say to you.
Won't you stay? We would honor you.
Honor requires that I be elsewhere.
He's no defenseless princess. He can clearly handle himself in a fight should the need ever call for it. Though certainly not some sort of jack of all trades. He clearly has areas where he can improve.
Your pitch was too forced.
But through it all, Chalamet delivers a quiet, self-reflective performance that feels natural and human. I went into this expecting to not care about Chalamet, but I walked away thinking that he did an excellent job and almost stole the show. Now, I can't wait to see part 2.
What if I'm not Dad? Not what? The future of House Atreides.
And of course, the visuals. What can I say? What can I possibly say? Quite a lot, but let's not waste too much time. Every frame is jaw-dropping, and the world building is fantastic. There's a real sense of scale to so many of the huge spaceships that look damn near real. Every time I saw one of those dragonfly ships, I wanted to be in one. I might question what exactly those wings are made of that allows them to flap so fast and not break off. Plus, they don't exactly look like they're made of the same material as a helicopter blade, but who cares? Dragonfly ships are my new obsession, and I want a model of one right now. I want those swords they use in battle. I want the cloaks the Fremen wear. I want to charge at the Harkonnens being led by Josh Brolin, and I want to watch a sandworm devour an entire big-ass vehicle. But I sure as hell wouldn't want to be chased by one. This is proper world building. It has to make a world that you want to be in, scenarios that you want to join, dangers that you want to run from. The true magic of sci-fi filmmaking. There's probably so much more to gush over, and I'm sad that I can't think of more positives to say, but I do want to keep this review moving along. So, with all that said, are there any negatives worth pointing out? I mean, not really, at least not from where I was sitting. And I honestly, in some ways, feel like it's a little unfair to have any negatives right now, because Part 2 hasn't been released. And who knows, part 2 could literally fix every problem that I have. So, in lieu of actual negatives to talk about, I'll instead discuss the things that I want to see in part 2, and should those desires not be met, then we'll have negatives to talk about. Number 1, Beast Rabin needs to have a more prominent role. He's supposed to be a savage fighter from what I can gather. He's the most dangerous of Baron Harkonnen's minions, so I want to see him be a ruthless son of a bitch and be a true monster.
Uncle, how can we let this happen? How can the Emperor take everything we've built and give it to that Duke?
Number 2, I don't want to see Zendaya take over the movie as the true hero or messiah. I feel like it's not beyond the realm of possibility. Hey, if they'll gender and race swap a character for brainless reasons, then I doubt it'd be a stretch to assume they'd do the same for the hero of the story.
I don't believe you're the Lisan al-Gaib. But I want you to die with honor.
Number 3, we need to know who this Emperor is and why exactly he's been conspiring with the Harkonnens to get rid of the Atreides. If we get nothing from the Emperor, then we have a real problem.
The Atreides' voice is rising. And the Emperor is a jealous man.
Number 4, I want to know more about the motivations of these weird witch women that Rampling commands. What are they really doing in this story, and whose side are they on? This better be big because, as I said, they're getting a whole TV show being made about them.
Come here, kneel.
How dare you use the voice on me?
That's all I can think about right now anyway. Totally hyped for the sequel, and I highly recommend checking this one out. Definitely one of my favorites of the year. Please do not go in expecting an action-adventure like Star Wars. You're not gonna get it. That's not what this is, but it is an easily accessible political sci-fi. I won't pretend that there aren't bombastic action sequences. There are, and they're awesome, but this is way more reserved. So just a heads up. My honest rating for Dune Part 1, a 5 out of 5. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Hope to see you soon. One final caveat as you guys move on with your day. I've decided to test my luck at a Patreon, so please consider supporting the channel. No obligations, of course. No content is gated off, but any and all support would mean a lot. Links in the description. Have a great one, folks.